Australia is a good example that we can look at if what you're saying is true, because Australia has less people than live in California, less people than live in Florida in an entire country, the landmass of the United States. It's a pretty good example. With some of the most advanced cities in the world, it is a global player, and it's also part of the Five Eyes, right, of military intelligence. This is not a minor country. This is a serious player with multi-trillion-dollar GDP. Australia right now has taken the mindset that they are a global country, that they are an economic zone, that anybody can come. They've made a deal with Modi to bring in up to 1 million more Indians per year. They have a deal with China to bring in China if they have a certain amount of wealth in their bank. And what you're having right now is the most explosive, denigrating destruction of a country we will see in terms of, it is, besides Hong Kong, the second highest housing market in the country, because you're bringing in people that are artificially inflating the home prices. But you also have the socialist government, like you said, which I'll agree, that's restricting home building, to prevent environmental destruction. So you have this skewed, difference. So right now, I think it's like 8 to 10 times the average yearly salary is like an entry-level home. I might be wrong, maybe 6, but 8 to 10 times last time I read of entry-level salary with a 4-year degree just to be able to get an entry-level 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house there. They live in smaller homes. On top of that, the competition there, like I have 3 friends there myself who have had to leave cities, move around, and one moved to Poland because they cannot compete with the Indians. It's not H-1B there. They cannot compete. They're trained at the University of Sydney, the best university there, and they cannot compete because they keep getting lower wages and agreeing to lower wages than they want. I've watched that culture get destroyed, and I'm seeing it at such a homogenous level across every major city: Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra. You got all the way up in Gold Coast. It's all being destroyed, and I look at that as an American, and I go, I see that here regionally in some places. I just don't want that for the whole country. And I know I'm not retarded. Sorry, I probably should say on YouTube. I know I'm not the R word, because it looks like the whole country, or at least half the country's seeing what I'm seeing.
So it just feels like it feels like I'm talking to a woke person, because
that's fine.
All I'm hearing is my experience, my truth, my anecdotal evidence.
About the overarching trends
but everything
of
you just talked
nation.
about. For example,
that's not my experience. That's the actual.
It's the vibes you've observed.
Country.
Immigration doesn't lower wages.
This stuff is like this is
a documented
This is
phenomenon.
the Liberal versus Conservative Party. This is their current debate. I spoke at CPAC Australia. This is being debated in their parliament. Like, this is not my experience. This is that's what you Paul Revere or whatever. You have Justin Trudeau. This is what's happening in Canada too. This is not my experience. These are countries are split on this issue. I was living there. I'm saying I follow the politics. I'm involved. I have family in the political system, in the intelligence community. This is the actual issue going on. This is not
immigration.
I didn't read this in a book.
Immigration does not lower wages, except for one subgroup of Americans. Immigration leads to an increase in jobs for domestic-born Americans, an increase in wages for domestic-born Americans, because it's not just an increase in labor. So just give me a moment. It's not just an increase in the supply of labor, because if all that changed, and this is kind of the talking point, was, now we have more people competing for the jobs, of course then wages would go down. But also the demand for all the other goods and services around them in the community also goes up. The total productive capacity of the nation and the economy goes up when you have more people who can work and produce. And what that means is higher wages and more jobs. I wish there's so much research into this. For every immigrant that comes in and fills a job.
It means no.
I don't know about you, but I can go and buy an apple pie for a few dollars.
Guys, the argument.
I don't know what you're talking
My wife
about.
makes me one.
That's exactly the point.
That's
a really great example. Like, you don't know what I'm talking about. That's the point of your tweet when I said you don't know ish about this stuff. It's not singular culture. It's the fact that you cannot import massive amounts of people. So graph go up, and then wonder why it is that your mall no longer has Christmas morning with Santa Claus, and they're doing a holiday festival season instead. There are things that we care about.
Is that the worst thing in the world? That there's
the things we
multiple
care about and our
represented?
moral traditions are no longer represented in our communities. It is a bad thing.
Christmas is no longer represented in our communities.
These things are on decline.
Not in Boca Raton.
I don't know where you live. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I drive down. Everyone's house is decked out for Christmas. Churches are packed and overflowing. I just feel like you guys live in a different reality than I do.
No, I live in a reality where I've watched numerous different subcultures be completely gutted and decimated, and industries ripped to shreds by this graph go up mentality of neolibs and libertarians.
It's creative destruction. And economic progressing does destroy some jobs.
I do not believe the world is made better by destroying moral traditions
in place
just because you want graph go up.
Skateboarding production is not a moral tradition.
A cultural tradition that we have in this country come from all sorts of community gatherings and communications. And for instance, the founding fathers met in bars and pubs to create this idea of self-governance or to expand upon it. And what we have now are people who are completely dejected, don't meet once a week. There's no culture. There's an increase in crime and the mechanization of the state. What I see from libertarians in this graph go up argument is, but the economy is good. What's the problem? Well, I don't know. In Dearborn, Michigan, there's a bunch of female genital mutilation. That's probably not a good thing. Just bringing people in for the sake of graph go up does not make your country better.
Well, hang on for a moment.
You're both making two different arguments, and the real situation is there is a balance between the two, because Tim is talking about what the important thing from his perspective is that the society and the culture take precedence over the economy, right? The economy lives to serve the society and the culture, because the society and the culture are the people. So the reason that you worry about economic graph go up, or however you want to phrase it, the reason you worry about those things is because that is in service to the people. The argument that you're making, Brad, sounds like the people are in service to the economy, and you can't.
Oh, it's that the economy is inextricable from people's well-being.
It's not. I understand that, but the point that I'm making here is there is a balance argument here that actually needs to be argued, and both of you are arguing to a different thing. So you're arguing that the economy is the most important, most important aspect.
And when voters go to the polls,
hold on. I understand that, but Tim is arguing that part of the reason why we see a decline in overall feelings of satisfaction in life, why we see people that have a higher rate of depression in our society, why we see all these negative results in people's lives, is because we're focusing only on things like economic prosperity, and we're not focusing on having more kids, which is another symptom of the problem that Tim is addressing. Yeah, you're not addressing the problem that Tim is, and Tim is. I mean, maybe Tim doesn't understand. It isn't. No.
This is literally the argument. The argument is literally that graph go up is short-sighted and stupid and leads to civilization collapse. A paraplegic 1 year after their accident and a lottery winner 1 year after winning register the same levels of happiness. Yes. The talking about people are not in poverty today. It's it's nebulous in that poverty will always exist because poverty is relative to the wealth of a nation. What we're talking about
is different measures. There's absolute measures of poverty as
well. And there are people that care about their traditions, their moral frameworks, and the idea of we're going to take the manufacturing from Michigan and send it to Mexico. It's a good thing because overall the numbers go up. Tell it to the families in Michigan who are forced to flee as the state collapses, because the hard fixed costs of infrastructure don't change and the jobs are gone. Meaning for the average person, their share of taxes and services they have to pay for increases as people leave and there are no jobs. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.